Hello and welcome back to day 13 of this, my Solve the Escape, the Sunken Submarine Advent calendar from Ravensburger. Now each day we need to solve a clue from the previous day to work out where our next door is, because none of the doors otherwise are labelled with numbers. They're only labelled once I've written them wrong. So yesterday we found that day 13 was all the way over here. And we had to open the door to verify it was correct, because there is indeed inside the room 13, you can just about see, I think. So we'll have a look inside the room, but each day we find a card which detaches into usually two. Oh wow! In a break from the norm, it's detached into three, and it's clearly about tying knots, I can see. And there's also, not always there isn't always something, but today there is an object in there as well. And I'm pretty sure it's the string, not the plastic bag we're focusing on here. So we have some yellow string. Okay. And, oh, there are various knots inside the room, I can see. Alright, there's quite a bit to take in here. I'll come back to the room in a moment. Let's have a look at the cards first. So it says, look at all these marvellous knots. Let's try them out. And then this card is itself blank on the back. Let's put that there. And then this card, is there some numbering on them? Yes, there is. There's a 1 here. And it shows, well, it shows the start of a knot being tied. And 13 is just the day number, I think. 2, and it's clearly a different knot being tied, and then 3, which is a complex enough knot that you need to tie it in 2 stages, and then 4. Wow, that looks a properly complex knot. I hope I don't have to tie these with a bit of string, because they look quite hard to do. Are they going to look like anything once they're tied? I don't know, maybe it will come clear once I look in the room. So here is the room. Right, here we go. So on the back of the room, there are 4 labelled knots, each with a digit next to them. On the left-hand side of the room, there are, I should say, 2 more knots, bowline and stopper knots, numbers 1 and 2. Okay, bowline is number 1, stopper knot is number 2. So I'm pretty sure we're going to be tying these knots. At least the idea is to tie the knot, identify it, and get a digit for it. 3, figure 8 knot, 4, square knots, 5, clove hitch, 6, round turn and 2 half hitches, alright. 7, sheet bend, and 8, double sheet bend. So I assume we tie 4 knots. Okay, so I think we're going to tie 4 knots, and then we're going to work out which of the knots correspond to the instructions. And we're going to identify them, which will give us 4 digits. And then those digits will in turn correspond to, let me just readjust the camera here, the numbers that run, the coordinates that run down the sides of the calendar. As I've said on previous days, each of which is sort of like, they're formatted like latitude and longitude, but I mean this is obviously away from the centre of the earth, so it can't be either, but it says to ignore the number of degrees, which is always 24 on this axis, and look at the number of minutes, which range from 16 to 19. And on the top of the calendar it says to ignore again the number of degrees, which is always 75, and then the number of minutes ranges from 35 here over on the part off the side of the calendar here, off the side of the screen I should have said really, to 30. So we're looking for a number from 30 to 35 and another number from 16 to 19. So that doesn't really narrow it down incredibly. So I guess we need to start tying some knots and identifying them. Right, here we go, knot 1. So we're going to see now how I do on this. So it comes over, I don't know if it's going to be able to see what I'm doing. Let's start with lots of slack. It comes over itself, round behind and through. Okay, it's a pretty straightforward knot, like this. Oh, so that looks like that. Okay, so let's see if we can identify this. Is that a figure of 8 knot? I would guess it is. It's definitely a figure of 8 knots. So we have, 1 is a 3. Okay, so I'm going to write that down so I don't forget. I do not want to have to retie all the knots. Right, now we have, let's untie that. 2 is on the back of here, isn't it? Okay, so tying this one with 1 bit of rope, I need to have, there's one, let me just point. Okay, so tying this one is going to be more interesting. So there's 1 piece of rope which comes like this, and a separate piece that comes like that. So it's clearly we're tying 2 separate bits of rope together, and I could cut this in half, or I can just try the 2 ends. I think I probably will need to cut it in half. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult to work out what's going on. So let's cut it in half. Here we go. All right, now we have 2 bits of rope. Okay, so this bit comes over and curls around here. This bit goes... The trouble is, these bits of string are now not long enough for this. I think that comes up over here. And over here. So these are the bits I'm not using. So at the moment I've got that on the right. So that matches the picture. And then I think I'm just knotting these again. So I'm tying that round into itself like this. So it's nowhere near as complex as it looked. And it ends up like that. I think. Does that match any of our knots? Well, it's got 4 ends. So we've got 4 ends marked on some of them. I don't think it's a stopper knot. It's obviously not a figure 8 knot. It could well be a square knot. That seems plausible given what I did. If I untie it a bit so you can see it better. Yes. Okay. It is. Okay, so this is definitely a square knot. Number 4. Okay, so progress 34, which is a valid coordinate at the top of the calendar. Okay. So now let's go back to picture 3. Don't know why I looked on the back of there, but I used it. Picture 3. And this one hopefully is a bit simpler. Famous last word, especially because I now have a shorter bit of string. Okay, so this goes... it's that under itself. It goes in a little loop and then back through itself, which is 3A, and then crosses over to here. And then the bit that's crossed over goes behind here. So let's get a bit more slack. Goes behind here and then over this and then through the little gap at the top here. My golly. Welcome to tying knots with Gareth. And makes this, which does feel secure. And it looks quite different from different angles. Ah, look, now I reckon I need to pull this bit out to match the illustration. Is it this bit that was looped around here? Yes. So it looks a bit more like that. Oh, there we go. I reckon that, apart from the angles of the string, I think that matches the picture a bit better. So if we have a good look in the room again, does that match the bow line? And I mean, gosh, it's quite hard to see into these little rooms. I think that matches the bow line. It's certainly not any. It's certainly not 2 or 3 or 4. I don't think that's 5. I don't think it's 6. It's not those multiple. It could be 6, I suppose. And then, well, it's not 7 and 8 because that's for 2 strings. So here's the question: have I tied the bow line, or have I tied the round turn and 2 half hitches? Oh my golly! I'm going to need to trace the string around. So in the bow line, it chases round there, through there, back on itself. I mean, it looks like a bow line to me. So let's write down 1. Okay, so I think that's the bow line. And in fact, I mean, I didn't want to do it the cheating way, really, but it must be a 1 because if it's going to be the left coordinate on the calendar, that is always a 1. Right, so I've got 34 and then 1, which hasn't helped me really because they all start with 1. They go, as I say, from 16 to 19. Now we need to tie this. Holy moly. Right, this is 1 bit of string. Okay, I should have done the one with 2 strings last, really, shouldn't I? It comes around here, around on itself, over and back like that. Okay, so actually the first step is pretty straightforward. It's just that. And then, oh, golly, this bit here then comes round through the middle, yes, like that. And then in the next picture, we tuck it through this gap at the top, I think, here. I think it goes through there, which makes that. Well, I mean, that's actually pretty secure. If I pull that anymore, it doesn't get any tighter, and that's that's interesting. Actually, it's a nice knot. Let's have a look in the room again. So we've used 1. It's clearly not a stopper knot because there's only 1. There's not 4 ends. Similarly, it's not 4 for that reason. We've done 3. It doesn't look at all like the clove hitch or the round turn and 2 half hitches, to be honest. Oh, but there's not 4 ends. makes you think it's not the sheet bend or the double sheet bend. So maybe it is the clove hitch or the round turn of 2 half hitches. Oh my golly. Okay, well, using the cheating logic I didn't want to use, it has to be 6, 7 or 8. Because the numbers go from 16 up to 19 and there is no 9. So we're looking at 6, 7 or 8 for this. And, I mean, you could quite readily dispense with 7 and 8 because they're 4. 2 bits of string. And this is only 1 bit of string, or rope. So it must be 6. It must be a round turn and 2 half hitches. So on that basis, where's the other turn that it shows on the in the room? So what will go around this and this? Do they go around the? So perhaps that and that, or perhaps this bit and this bit would go round. Okay, so if I put them round something, I don't think it's necessary for solving the calendar, but does that actually look? Those are round there. That looks a little bit like the picture. Comes out to the side, there's a couple of tied round bits there. I don't know whether it would fall apart, but if I was to cut on the bottom left of where I'm holding, but not obviously the piece of string, but where the loop is, and then the far rightmost loop as I'm holding it oriented at the moment, if I was to cut both of those, they might match 7. If I was to cut that big loop at the bottom, I think that would actually match it. Which is weird. It doesn't make any sense at all to me. Why show, if that's the answer, why show, not this one, why show 2 pieces of rope for this, but only 1 piece of rope for this, if both of them are 2 string knots? And also the puzzle is a little flawed because the numbers are so heavily restricted by the need to find coordinates on the calendar. But, well, I've done that. But I think if I cut here, it's obviously going to be not much spare. Oh, hello, not my camera. There's obviously not going to be much spare rope. But if I cut here, like that, I think I now have a sheet bend knot. And I actually do. That is definitely a sheet bend knot. Why it shows it with 1 piece of string and it root back on itself, I cannot tell you. But it is a sheet bend knot, number 7. All right. Okay. So we have found a coordinate, 3417. Eventually, with a lot of nonsense. Let's just put these back in the room because actually I don't think I'm going to need those again. Famous last words. 3417. So this row is 17, and at the top of the calendar here, this column is 34. So we are looking for 3417, which is here. And hopefully when I open this, we'll have tomorrow's puzzles, yes, but hopefully we'll have a number 14 in it to confirm that we are correct. And there is a 14, so I won't go any further in looking in there. We have found door 14 for tomorrow. I shall write on it so as not to forget. I won't forget, nor will you, I'm sure, if you watch tomorrow's video. So indeed, why not join me when I will have a go at that door? Hopefully there's no more string to tie there. No, I can confirm there isn't. By here, there are playlists of 3 other Advent calendars I solved last year involving puzzles, and here are the 3 Advent calendars I'm solving this year, which does include this one. And by here is my channel, so why not subscribe? It makes it easier to find my future videos. And talking of which, I hope you do find them, and I see you again in tomorrow's video. But until then, take care and goodbye.